Well, the EU are up to regulatory shenanigans again. The question is, will this be good for us or will it be bad for us? And with that in mind, here's a quote. "Let's not kill one of Europe's few tech success stories." That was a rather damning statement given by the CEO of Supercell, and its latest shot in a war that has been silently raging since April, because that's when the EU unveiled new guidelines for microtransactions in gaming. And now, after a summer of adjustment, the industry is speaking out. Now, obviously, in one way, that's all kind of hilarious, and we do sort of think, yeah, you've rammed our games full of this bullshit, a lot of it has felt fairly manipulative, it's probably good that someone is getting involved. In big picture, that is what I think. That being said, a lot of people in the industry are saying that this will ruin everything that they've built. I mean, just look at what the Supercell dude said. Basically, according to a lot of them, they say these regulations would worsen the player experience and also wouldn't improve protections. And that certainly is a bit that I'm at least interested in. They also say that this would cause widespread collateral damage to one of EU's biggest tech success stories. So here's the thing. He's not entirely wrong. He's not entirely right. There's definitely stuff for us to talk about, and this one's going to be a goddamn trip. And I get this all can be a lot. We've got tariff and trade negotiations affecting everything from Switch 2 pricing to gaming privacy laws, and that means you need a full picture. And that's where Ground News comes in. It's where I go to cut through the clickbait and to understand what's happening. They're today's video sponsor. And here's the story of the EU pushing back against Trump's tech regulation threats. We've got 107 sources here covering it, but a striking 63% on the left, 29% in the center, and only 8% on the right. That's an imbalance that put it straight into Ground News' blind spot feed. And the headline comparison is kind of fascinating here. You've got Le Monde, a left-leaning and rated very high factuality outlet, running "EU defends its digital rules as sovereign right after Trump's tariff threat." Another outlet, Americans for Tax Reform, who are right-leaning with mixed factuality rating, flips it, saying Trump slams EU digital regulations as discriminatory attack on US giants. So you see the same diplomatic clashes, but opposite heroes and villains. And just those factualities alone show you where you are or are not seeing spin. So ground actually means what you see is reliable. And when only 8% of right-leaning outlets are touching a major piece of US-EU tech news, yeah, you're kind of missing how this is playing politically. Now, I get all of this with Ground News' Vantage Plan. It gives you bias ratings from 3 independent agencies, side-by-side headline comparisons, and with, say, their tech interest page, you can just see all the tech stories from all the angles. And if you go to ground.news/Bello, you'll get 40% off unlimited access with the Vantage Plan. That's the plan that I use, and that is the best deal of the year for my subs for limited time. So, if you want to check it out, hit up that link down below. Here's a fun fact to get us going. This was kind of kicked off by a Swedish horse girl game. Yeah, so here we are. Let's get into the story. The autumn legislative sessions are starting, and we're right at the end of the consultation period for the Digital Fairness Act. So, would you like some fairness in digital format? Maybe this act is for you. Now, what it is an overarching EU legislative agenda that covers loads of tech fields and where they intersect with consumer protections. Now, for our purposes, it includes features like deceptive interface design where, well, there's all sorts of shady shit that they do, manipulative elements, addictive elements, and unfair personalization practices. You might think, oh, I love things to be personalized. Less so whenever a game is trying to exploit you really wanting that next upgrade and is giving you a targeted deal. It probably has 900% value or some made-up bullshit like that. Now, it's especially concerned where it hits consumer vulnerabilities and where people can be exploited. Now, you may remember our coverage from back in April, where we got to talk about the Swedish horse girl game. So that's when the EU took on microtransactions, and what happened is that the Consumer Protection Cooperation Network, rolls off the tongue, laid out some new key principles. And this all came as a part of a case made against the Swedish mobile game Star Stables. Now, what we're talking about today, the Digital Fairness Act and its consultation period, it is building on those principles from the whole horse game saga. Now, what that means is new systems requiring real monetary value on listings, not just, made up gem bullshit. Removing multiple currency options, ensuring refunds are available. Imagine that, a refund on a gem. Crazy stuff. And also ending a lot of the FOMO practices. And especially because these things were often targeted toward kids, but also they would apply to everyone because games would need to implement them across the board. Now, at the time, the industry was obviously not really thrilled. They love making money from all of the things that I just listed that feel sketchy. And they framed these as new legal theories, as a disruption that could see games pulled from the EU if those games couldn't comply. Think about the poor monetization designers, guys. But where things left off is that the CPC was supposed to work with them, work with the industry to help implement everything. But 6 months later, the industry mood has not improved, and they are quite worried. That open letter from the Supercell CEO, and by the way, Supercell are the Clash of Clans people, so you know, some top-tier creative gaming content. That's just one of several press efforts that we've seen in recent weeks. But it's the most striking one from a senior figure. Basically, he says that he doesn't want the EU's 27 billion euro industry harmed by the DFA or the guidelines that came in March of this year. And he argues that they will, quote, break how many games fundamentally work, that they will harm the player experience, and especially will do this for free-to-play games. He uses a familiar metaphor for how in-game currency works, but it's one that was okay per the legal framework before the new guidelines in April. And basically he talked about theme park tokens. The idea that a family can buy tokens in bulk, or they can buy tokens individually, or they can even win tokens in a theme park. And to him, this is all framed as, quote, convenient and fun, avoiding repeated cash transactions. You know, the idea you can buy loads of tokens at once. And he then contrasts this with the potential worst case under the new guidelines, where individual parental approval for each token used, including signed contract agreements, regardless of purchase value and all of that, would basically harm the experience. Basically, he's saying that regardless of purchase value, rides must display a real cost in euros based on a fixed standard, not, you know, a token cost. Now, when children win prizes, they believe that those prizes are worth real money, despite obviously not being able to cash out. In his analogy, the visitors get frustrated and leave. Why? Well, because the experience isn't simpler or safer than what exists now. So, why change the token system? Well, his argument, he believes the existing frameworks can just be strengthened. You know, improve what we've got. Don't do a big new scary thing. Now, we will come back to how Supercell responds to those existing laws later on in this video. But going on, he suggests these new policies could result in companies choosing other monetization models. Things like more in-game advertising. And this feeling has actually got a lot of backing. Multiple large European game developers sent a letter to the EU. And I have to say, a massive thank you to one of our members, Neo Nebulosa, for helping us navigate the fun industrial nuances of the continent. Because for real, this shit's complicated. Now, what happened is that Euractiv saw the letter, and then industry-wide bodies like the European Game Developer Federation also got involved. And they're all very worried, and this is based on legal interpretations of current proposals and what they would mean for them, and of course also what they would mean for you. Let's go to the heart of the issue. This fundamentally comes down to a fairly simple question, but it's one with significant legal ramifications, and it's this. Is in-game currency the same as real currency? Because if it's treated as such, as, quote, digital representations of value, then the companies trading in them face significantly more scrutiny. And if you're thinking about, say, I don't know, banking, crypto, and other things, yeah, you're kind of thinking along the right lines. Because effectively, they would then be a little bit more like Bitcoin under the law. And to be clear, that is the position of the CPC. And therefore, it's inherent to the current consultation for the Digital Fairness Act, which is the big thing that would really change a lot. Now, the fundamental argument is that people are putting real money into these systems, and they are getting in return for their real money a digital representation of that money in the form of products, like, say, your gems or your Call of Duty points, whatever it may be. So, because of that, they should therefore have transparency and safety when they are spending. Now, those are good, noble goals, but implementation could be a little tricky, and it would mean some humongous changes. Now, we can't just dismiss those things because we like the principles behind the changes, and for the avoidance of doubt, we here are very much behind those principles. And what the industry is putting forward really are based on worst-case scenarios. But that doesn't mean that they won't happen, and we should talk about it because it would impact the industry. Now, they already don't trust the EU elements implementing all of this, as flagged by George Osborne, well, that one, in his excellent video games industry memo newsletter back in April. His sources suggested to him something rather troubling, that before the new guidelines, the CPC did not engage with industry trade bodies, let alone get impact assessments. I know, impact assessments, it's real sexy stuff, but then again, we are dealing with, billions of euro and how the industry literally works. Now, that's part of why these bodies are emphasizing certain facts. Things like, only 18% of kids are allowed to make purchases, that 95% get parental supervision, and that monthly spending has actually gone down year on year, which is at least a silver lining if you're not a fan of microtransactions. But basically, the industry is putting forward that they see all of this stuff as using a sledgehammer to crack a nut. And basically, that's why they've been so frustrated. Now, the CPC suggested that they would work with the industry after they did their big publication. And without direct leaks, we don't literally know what those discussions looked like over the summer. But based on current reactions, they did not go well. But more than that, apparently, the CPC also didn't work with other EU bodies. Yes, this is really getting all quite complex. People may wonder why, I don't know, nothing ever gets done. Anyway, what it effectively means, the point the industry is trying to get across, right, is that this one group tried to set a new central philosophy in microtransactions, but they kind of did that without getting everyone else involved in the situation involved in what that would look like, which can get messy. And for an example of said mess, we've got to say a big thanks to this pack of Lithuanian RuneScape gold farmers. To put a very messy situation in very simple terms, in Lithuania, currency transfers are tax exempt. So because of this, the gold farmers thought that they would not have to pay value-added tax. But the Revenue Office disagreed. The Revenue Office believed that the gold farmers weren't trading a currency whenever they were doing their trades. So yeah, they were like trading a product, and that would mean that they would need to get their value-added tax. Now, they needed clarity on the law here, so what they did is they went to the EU, and they went to a specific bit called the EU Advocate General, and the result of that was a ruling by the EU Advocate General, and that is that in-game currency should be considered as a digital second-hand product, not as a currency in itself. Now, that's actually quite fun for today's story, because that's actually not how the guidelines from the CPC frame them. Same goes for the Digital Fairness Act proposals as well. And that just makes everything here so much messier, because different bits of the EU, different arms of it, are taking different opinions. Obviously, that makes it very hard to get anything goddamn done. And that's part of why the company seems so pissed off here. To them, the CPC wants compliance with their guidelines, even as another EU judiciary is suggesting another interpretation. So they're, in a way, saying, oh no, look at us, we're caught in the middle, this is a nightmare, what do we do? And honestly, in that case, yeah, they do have a point. It's like different arms of the same body are saying different things about basically the same issue. That's obviously chaos. Chaos that could get worse with the Digital Fairness Act being implemented next year. And that would mean that, well, everything that they work on, these companies that is, may now need to be changed again to comply with the new requirements. Which would be a good thing going solely off the principles, what we're trying to protect and make better here. But, implementation is often the hard bit, and that is why the companies are very much worried. Oh boy, we're getting there. And one thing you may have noticed in this video is it might all sound a little bit schizo. I mean, here I am in 1 second being very much, look at the things the Swedish Horse Girl game was doing. That's all pretty sketchy. Let's regulate some of this stuff so that, we don't have exploitative bullshit happening that's, aimed at teens and stuff. And then you'll also see me, well, talking about the industry's points. And to understand this story, I think we've just got to accept a very basic fact. Everyone involved is going to present their argument in the best light that they can. The CPC will. The people at Supercell will. I will. You will. We'll pretty much always be trying to put our argument forward in the best way. And the upshot of that is everyone involved, from their perspective, will play up the risk and then downplay anything that will undermine them. And even if we return to the Supercell dude's letter, you can start to pick holes in some of the logic that he puts forward. If you're going to update his analogy to actually be accurate to the real industry, Well, then his theme parks would be having 3 or 4 or 5 different types of tokens. Just look at, what you see when you open a gacha game and you're just bombarded. And to undermine his points even more, he tries to talk about how, oh, you can win one of the tokens as a prize. Yeah, but in so many of these games, the only thing you can win as a prize is, like, just for participating in something, is the lowest value of token. But then you can only buy some tokens in massive bundles. Bundles that don't match the price of the product you're trying to buy. None of which is a good consumer experience, as much as this just web of absolute goddamn insanity does make these companies a hell of a lot of money. And when he talks about wanting to make existing legislation stronger, well, yeah, Supercell would know all that they need to know about that, because they've been accused of being non-compliant with UK loot box regulations. Clearly, self-regulation and current legislation are not working for everyone. That's why we need these changes in the first place. But it is also true that he does have a bit of a point. These bodies should probably have a talk with the industry reps to implement changes in a way that won't have unintended negative impacts. And we have seen many examples of that. As an example, GDPR, you having more control over your data, all that privacy stuff, that's pretty great. But it's really annoying having that pop up every time you go to a website and you got to install an extension to deal with the annoying thing. Yeah, that does kind of suck. I mean, I get the point, I agree with the principle, but the implementation clearly isn't really that great. And where it risks getting worse is that today we've been talking about the concerns from big trade bodies and companies like Supercell. And here's the thing with those groups, they've got money. They can afford to be compliant with new laws, like, say, all the stuff that's been going on with the UK's Online Safety Act and similar laws around the world. The incumbents can fork up the cash to be compliant. They can do that. Hell, if the compliance is a real nightmare, then maybe you can be an entrepreneur and sell the solution. But the smaller teams, the people who are just on the cusp of being sustainable fiscally, well, they'll be hurt more. The worst case scenario is something that looks more like regulatory capture, that perhaps looks like the incumbents adapting to the regulation, but then the regulation being so onerous that new companies basically can't really get started up. That can be really bad. But to cut through all that fluff, something needs to happen. And the reason why is simple. A reckoning is coming, and we are very much on the clock. Here's the deal. The Digital Fairness Act is expected to be delivered in the next year or so. And what's happening right now is the ending of the consultation period for the virtual currency stuff. And clearly, after 12 weeks of consultation, well, these companies have been reacting in this way to make a point that they don't want the Digital Fairness Act legislators to treat them the way that the CPC allegedly treated them with all of that Swedish horse girl stuff. They basically want a chance to make sure that their voices are heard. And you know what? That is their right. They are literally entities contributing to the economy within the EU. So yeah, they should have a seat at that table. I want them to be listened to and respected, but also treated with the skepticism that is due, because they are very much not unbiased here. And just as these companies need to turn a profit, they also need to do so in a way that is not predatory toward the public. And ultimately, it's that last bit that's where I land. You can see enough horror stories of this stuff going bad, or even just the simple, basic goddamn thing. You look at your phone, there's a social media app that's just trying to play around with your brain chemistry to get you hooked. You open a video game, and now it's doing the same thing. There's all this predatory bullshit everywhere. I don't know about you, but I've had enough. And the profit of these businesses is, yes, relevant to them, the shareholders. But it's also not goddamn sacred. And the whole point of governments and bodies like these is that we can be represented, and in some way, we have some buy-in to the rules of the game that everyone should be able to play fairly, which is a bit of a stupidly optimistic, lofty-ass goal. But in this case, you know what? If they make less money because they're not allowed to be as manipulative and people lose their jobs because of that, that's okay. Maximizing employment's not the only fucking goal. There's other stuff going on. There are negative externalities. That's another thing to consider. Yes, you could just deregulate gambling to the tits and then tax it and say, look at our number go up. But then you can also think about the negative externalities on society that are a result of said gambling bollocks. And don't worry, you guys in the US are heading in the direction that the United Kingdom has been in for a long ass time regarding the old online sports betting. Anyway, I think you guys see the point. Yes, these guys should be listened to, etc., etc. But you know what? We should have some say in the goddamn rules, and people have had enough. I know this wasn't the most light and breezy video in the world, so palate cleanse yourself. Watching this one next.
With the election of Zohran Mamdani coming up in New York City, a viral post is going around from Homath, also known as Psychomath. Homath, you trying to rebrand into a bigger, broader picture? Because I am for it. Homath, I think, is a bit anti-woman. How could I have come to that conclusion? And I don't think he's factually wrong for the most part. And so when it comes to a hyper-focused channel, it may seem like he generally just doesn't like women. But I think the reality of Homath is that, again, the channel is very focused on issues pertaining to women, politics, and their behaviors. I like to point out issues of men as well. Because I actually believe the bigger problem is not women in elections and things like this. It's that weak men allow for problems to arise. Now, hold on. I'm getting ahead of myself. A post went viral where a woman took a picture of herself saying, I just voted for Zohran Mamdani. And you just, why? You posted a picture of yourself. What does that have to do with anything? What we're getting from all this is, I'm going to break down the problems of women in politics. Straight up. Because I don't believe that individuals are ever the problem, for the most part. I mean, there are individuals who are problems. The challenge we face, my friends, is generalities. And the way electoral politics works at such a massive scale, generalities are law. So by all means, you can enter a community where all the women are based AF and are voting for great policies alongside the men, but over a long enough period of time in a large enough sample, there are slight differences that become more and more pronounced and visible. To put it simply, if you get 10 guys and 10 girls, it's very possible that everybody's aligned politically. The women are going to vote for policies the men agree with and leads to a functioning society. But let's say the deviation rate among females for their voting patterns is 0.1%, something that typically doesn't manifest in a group of 10. 0.1% though. What happens when you get to 1,000 people? What happens when you get to 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 1 million people? You're now talking about, when you're scaling up to the size of the United States, with, let's just say, 330 million people, roughly half the country, excuse me, 165 million women, and you're then looking at 100,000+ that are deviating. And the voting patterns start to then skew a little bit. Now, honestly, I think the voting pattern is much more than 0.1%. And so the issue is, again, at a small scale, you're probably fine when you're like, women are going to be involved in the electoral process. And there's a lot of women who are going to get offended by me saying this. I mean, I've even argued with my wife about it quite a bit. The issue is never the individuals, it's what women do at scale, what men do at scale, and it's not entirely unique to women, and I believe the problem largely exists because of weak men. But we'll talk about the issue of women using this video and posts by Homath, and I'll go over the data for you. So the first thing I'll say is subscribe to this channel. I'm going to say it again, subscribe, click the subscribe button, because I got a video with like 500,000 on this channel, and this new channel's got 70K, and I'm like, guys, 170,000 of you watched this video and did not subscribe. Click that subscribe button right now, and let's talk about shockingly offensive things, which is going to piss off a lot of ladies. We got this video from Homath, Emily Saves America-based right-wing e-girl, and it's really funny. Let me play the intro to it for you, and let's roll.
But the amount of little like 19-year-old white boys in MAGA hats who love to send me messages about how I need to find God and I'm a degenerate and all this, why don't you worry about yourself, okay? I'm vibing, I'm crushing it, I'm having fun.
Right-wing e-girl Twitter drama. If you haven't seen it, Good. Don't see it. I'll tell you about it. There was a great big cat fight on Twitter recently, and it was engaging, by which I mean evidence that women do not belong in politics. Basically, Sarah Stock, young, pretty, right-wing e-girl, got engaged, and she was showered with congratulations. Just kidding, everyone had a problem with it. It took about 10 minutes to go from, I'm getting married, to, pause and read if you want.
What is this? You suck BD and probably have... Oh, my God. Pearl says, Morgan, you are a single mother with a public video admitting you have HPV. You may want to say this. What is...
You may have heard the phrase, the personal is political. It basically means your emotions are going to shape your beliefs, and female emotions are made of plutonium. You need to store them carefully, and when they become unstable, they cannot be contained. So why does this matter? Why am I telling you about right-wing e-girl Twitter drama? Well, number one, it gets clicks. And number two, it's going to help me teach you something that
Fair
you
point,
need
it gets
to know.
clicks.
I upgraded my holy order chart. What you need to know is the difference between providing and deserving. I'm going to use these red and blue arrows for provide and deserve. Right-wing e-girls are a great way to teach this because even when women say they are conservative, they are still women, and women deserve. Deserving is what they do. Women are natural deservers. Their default setting is table. And that's okay as long as they are deserving from people who agree that they deserve and want to provide. If people are allowed to deserve things from other people who don't agree that they deserve it, that's a big problem. It breaks this whole chain because if you deserve, someone else must provide, and if they don't want to provide, then they stop providing.
So there's a few points I want to address, and then there's a lot. I got a lot to go through. He makes great points talking about the generalities of women. I don't think there's anything wrong with women being women. I don't think there's anything. What offends me is that women are offended by being women. Not all women, feminists. And so I'll put it like this. Women are deserving. Every single one of them is deserving. That's it. Sorry, guys. Have a nice day. The reason why is because women make babies. Men do not. Men contribute to the baby-making process, but women's bodies are literally the machine by which the baby is created and birthed and nurtured even after the baby is created. What this means is, from an evolutionary standpoint, men fight to provide for women so that women can raise families. Now, what does that mean in the political? It means that women want stuff. They think they deserve stuff because they always have and always will. But that manifests in a very dangerous way politically. When a politician promises things that can't be promised, women just say, well, I deserve it. This is why you tend to see females voting the left. It's why 70+% of millennial women are left-leaning or far left, all Democrat, and men tend not to be. This is not to say there's anything wrong with women being women. It's talking about the generalities at scale of how women are going to influence politics in any given nation based on the I deserve mentality. I made this argument in our last Culture War Live event. I want to stress this right now, guys. You got to buy tickets to this event, especially if you're interested in this subject matter. The Culture War Podcast Live in D.C. November 8th, Dating in the Modern Age. Emily Saves America is going to be there. Myron Gaines, Brian Shapiro, Alex Stein, me. Brian, of course, is a liberal guy. And we're going to be having this debate. So again, click the link in the description below. Come to the event. It's going to get rowdy. But my point was that women must be demanding of men. And I'll tell you why. If you go back in time, cavemen, there's a woman who is demure and not demanding. She says, my husband is perfect the way he is. She says, you're a good man and I'm attracted to you. And that guy says, okay. One day the man brings home a bundle of fish that he caught fishing. And he says, beautiful wife and children, I was able to catch but enough fish for all of us to eat dinner tonight. And wife says, okay, husband, thank you. Meanwhile, across the old rocky way in another cave, there is a guy who brings home a bushel of fish for his family. And he goes, wife and children, here are my fish. And she goes, is that all you brought home is 5 fish? What are we going to do with 5 fish? It's enough fish for the whole night. What do you want me to do? I'm one guy. She goes, no, I want 10 fish. 10 fish. How am I supposed to get 10? You go back out there and you get more fish? Oh, the wife won't stop nagging me. The fish is never enough. Guess what happens? Guess who survives? And I'm exaggerating a little bit. Obviously, a stable, loving relationship where the wife says, please get extra fish. What ends up happening? Well, the guy who is always just good enough doesn't bring home extra. And so when winter comes around, again, we're talking about northern countries where most humans live in the northern hemisphere, but you're going to have some kind of winter. And in these places across Europe, even in Asian cultures, the man who had the wife who says you have to do more. Winter comes, and the husband who's just good enough, and the wife who didn't complain, she says, I guess we have no food. And he goes, I tried my best. And then they starve to death. And then the wife who was always saying, do more, I want more, I deserve more. I'll leave you if you don't bring. Winter comes, and they got extra food. And she says, I'm glad you got the extra food. Now, why didn't you get more? Now, I'm not trying to make it seem like all women are always nagging and nasty. The point is, there's a reason why women are always going to be in a state of more, more, more. Because the men who just provide the bare minimum did not survive disasters. This is a natural tendency among women, which means, where are we now? We take a look at the electoral maps, and it's kind of obvious. Women vote Kami Zohran Mamdani. Let me show you the actual tweet in question. So, Ben M. Freeman tweets, do not vote for Zohran Mamdani. And Bailey Moon on X says, too bad I did today, with a picture of her. Oh, so cute. It is the cringiest thing. Lady, get out of politics. You're allowed to be a young, attractive woman and take pictures of yourself and share them with men that you're trying to attract into having a mate, to have a mate. But in politics, therein lies the problem. Generalities. This one woman is not representative of all women everywhere, and I understand that. And I certainly blame men just as much as I blame women. This is not a video just say women are bad. It's to talk about the generalities of what happens at scale with women in politics. Don't get me wrong, men are problems here too. The problem that we are facing in this country is not because women vote in bad ways, and you've got people saying repeal the 19th. It's because weak men enable bad women. That's it. And when we protect everyone over a long enough period of time, men and women will create a safe space for people who normally would not survive to survive and be involved in politics. It's the ebb and flow of reality, of human civilization. I'm not saying people should die. I don't want people to get hurt. But you got to understand, if strong men create good times, this means weak people in general, men and women, survive, expand, and grow. And then your society is burdened by a plethora of weak people who consume without producing. Any organization, any machine that exports more energy than it imports will collapse. That's an obvious fact. Sometimes you need to do it. Got to lose a weight. Calories in, calories out. You know what I'm saying? Exercise. But like our society, we've grown figuratively fat. And so with this woman, I want to point out a few things. The selfie. What is she doing? She's virtue signaling to other women to fit in with the social hive. Just the way it is. I want to show you this video. I have it from Nick Shirley right here. You may have seen this. I'm going to play this video for you. And it is one of the greatest videos ever. Let me refresh it. You know, the annoying thing is, like, the audio on these videos doesn't play.
Illegal immigrants.
Let's try that again. You got to pause it right away. Then you got to unmute it. Then
Do you support the deportation of illegal immigrants?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
Okay. This man is asked, do you support the deportation of illegal immigrants? Watch what happens.
Okay. She's saying she doesn't.
If they're illegal, then yeah.
She says, what are you talking about? And the man says, if they're illegal, then yeah. She looks at him and shakes her head. He blinks.
Do you not support the deportation
She then looks at the camera, and Nick asks, do you not support the deportation of illegal
of
immigrants?
illegal migrants? And why not? He does and you don't.
It's not illegal.
It's not illegal to enter the country illegally? What? 8 USC 1325, 8 USC 1326. Look them up. It's been codified by Congress for a very long time. What? Now watch this.
Okay. If someone crossed over the border illegally, should they be deported?
Look at this pathetic loser of a man. Nick just looks at the camera like, wait a minute.
I'm not too sure about that.
I'm not too sure about that. Guys.
Hope I didn't just ruin their relationship.
Okay. So when we see these videos, and this is the point I was trying to make about Homath in the beginning. I don't think Homath hates women. I think he loves women. I think he very much wants to find a good woman. Pointing out issues of women in politics at scale does not mean that all women are bad and you hate women. Thus, I do think it's important to point out men like this. This man is the problem. Women will always be women. Men will always be men. But over a long enough period of time, hard times make strong men. Strong men make good times. Good times make weak men. Weak men make hard times. The reality of it is actually quite scary. The truth is, it's not that good times make weak men. It's that good times allow weak men to survive for a long time. And that's the harsh reality. Now, liberals can say whatever nasty thing they want. I'm talking science. Okay? When you're in a blizzard, like an ice age, called hard times, nobody made it happen. It's nobody's fault. Weak men die. Strong men survive. That's just it. Sometimes those strong men do nasty, awful, evil things in order to survive. That's it. Nobody made that happen. You take a look at the fourth, what do you call it? The Strauss-Howe generational theory, the fourth turning, etc. World War II. It's brutal. A lot of men died. And it's not always just about the strongest. Sometimes it's luck. You know what I mean? But these guys come back, the greatest generation, chiseled, having faced down, 2 world wars, basically, depressions. Wow. My grandpa was carved out of stone, let me tell you what. He'd eat moldy bread. You shouldn't do that, but he didn't care. Carved out of stone. Imagine him. I remember one day I made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and then I noticed the bread was moldy. And I went, ah. And he was like, what's the problem? And I was like, oh, the bread's moldy. He's like, so what? And I was like, well, I can't eat. Then he grabs it and he just, and eats it. And he's like, who cares? Well, the Great Depression was something fierce, right? And that's a chiseled man. To be fair, you can get sick from eating moldy bread, so don't do it. But, he ate it anyway. Look at this guy. This guy's a wad of cookie dough. The young woman looks at him and says, it's not illegal to illegally enter the country. What? Does your brain not work, lady? Yeah, well, apparently. You see, another big factor to all of this women in politics stuff, women are socially driven and men are, let me rephrase. Women are subjectively driven, men are objectively driven. Men tend to feel rewarded when they accomplish a goal. Now, sometimes that does involve being accepted by other people. In fact, I can't speak for anything other than like a skate contest, right? But you're in a competition and you succeed in that competition and everyone's screaming and cheering for you, it feels good. But here's the thing. For most guys, they get to that level because doing the thing felt good already. So here's the reality. Men and women are largely the same. Almost entirely in most ways that matter for a human race. But they differ in some of the most important ways as well. Surprise, surprise, men and women are different. What I'm trying to say is if you zoom out far enough and you looked at humanity, what would you see? You'd see a bunch of little dots consuming and pooping. And that's for the most part all it is. Very similar. They seek out food, they go to the bathroom. But when you zoom in at the smaller levels, you notice big differences that manifest in society. Now, again, if you had a village of 100 men and 100 women, you might find the women all basically aligning with the men's views, except for a few spinsters, perhaps. What happens when you have 160 million women? Well, even if it's a small percentage of deviation, you're going to have a massive, massive effect. Let me tell you about scale and value. So we're working on pool water. That's our castbrew.com pool water brand. And we thought we'd have pre-sales up by now. But we're actually navigating what makes more sense. Just having a cheaper product because we're trying to, it's a gag, or making it sustainable and make it make sense. So one of the options was the bottles all come in shrink wrapped. So you get 24, they put it in a box, and then they put plastic over it, heat it, and the plastic tightens around the bottles. And I said, well, it's cheap. It's very cheap. But I'm not here to make a cheap product. That was, we could. The goal is we want to make something that's a little bit better. So we want to reduce the amount of plastic we're using, despite the fact we understand there's still plastic in the caps, and we're not going to try and market this any. So we're like, it might be 25 instead of $20. We'll see. But here's the deal. How do we get the price down like Topo Chico or Mineragua? $1 for 12-ounce bottle with a crown cap? Dang. Hey, bottles and shipping, it's all real expensive. Well, the reality is they sell billions of bottles, Coke does, every year. So for us, if we sell 100 bottles, we have to make $1 or $2 per pack if we want to pay staff, cover shipping. But what if you're selling tens of millions of bottles? You only need a penny, because then you're going to be making millions of dollars from value. And that's how these big companies tend to work. And you get it, and you know this. Let me show you, this is really funny. I asked our woke friend, ChatGPT, how many females have won the chess world championship? Only one woman has ever won the overall open world chess championship. None. Huh? However, if you mean the women's world chess championship, no, I didn't say that. I responded, only one? None? Only one woman? Good catch. Let me clarify. 0 women have ever won the Open World Chess Championship. Indeed, my friends. Major league sports are not men's divisions. The NBA is not a men's division. It is an open division. Just so happens that the only people who ever seem to be at the top levels are men. Chess is also open. Men and women are allowed to compete, and women do. And not a single woman has ever won, going back to 1886. Why? I mean, come on. Maybe the argument, well, women don't play because society said women should. Fine, but over a long enough period of time, you'd think there'd be one. What's going on? Women's World Chess Championship, 18 women. Well, I don't care about that. I said, how is it possible? How is that possible? Certainly women and men are just as smart as each other. I love this so much. Yes, you're absolutely right that intelligence isn't the issue. Men and women are equally intelligent on average. I love it. I love it. Here you go, ladies and gentlemen. The average height of a woman is 5'4". The woman then responds, but I'm 5'6", though. And then the man sips his coffee. The meme is that women don't seem to understand averages and scale. Now, obviously, this is funny, because women right now are responding, being like, I totally understand. Oh, it's paradoxical. No, it's, mimetic? No, it's meta. I understand. Many, if not a large faction, even 49% of women understand generalities and averages. The point is, quite literally this. On average, women tend to respond in this way. So I responded with, you said men and women are similar IQ on average, but we aren't talking about on average. We're talking about a position only one person can have. One person can have the title per year of chess champion. One out of every person on the planet. So averages don't matter. Excellent point. IQ variance. They point out that men have a slightly higher variance. Oh, heavens to Betsy. And there you go. Welcome to the greater male variability hypothesis, which plays a massive role in politics. Men are both very, very, very stupid and very, very, very smart relative to women. And it makes sense. Women don't need to be either. Women are the caretakers and creators of life. And for some reason, women are offended by this. Not all women. I can hear you, ladies. I'm saying feminism exists in modern politics because a large portion of women are offended at the idea of being a woman. So when, like, I see a woman and she's like, I have babies. I'm like, wow, that's really important for society, and it's tremendous work. It's very difficult, and I am eternally grateful to my wife. She takes care of the baby. She loves doing it. She's very, very good at it. And it's a lot of work. I'm not cut out for it. I can't feed a baby. Bottles, not real. That's a job for women. And it's a proud job women should have, and they should be happy to. And I see the way women react to babies. Babies are celebrities to women. Like, we're walking down the street with the baby, and all the women are like, oh, like they're excited to meet the baby. They really are. I respect it, and I love it, and I love women for that. But there are many feminists and liberal women who, for some reason, hate the idea, and they want to be men instead. Well, what do men do? It was when I was talking to my wife, and, you know, I made the joke, bitches be crazy, yo, which is a joke. And then she was like, women are crazy? I watch what you guys do. Guys are nuts. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, on the mini ramp? I was like, oh, yeah. And then I think about all the times we've had professional skateboarders, like, jumping off the walls, and a guy who broke his femur. And I'm like, you're right. Men are crazy in a different way. Everybody's somewhat crazy to some degree, pushing the limits. Women need men who will provide for them in excess. And they have every right to, because they need it. A woman who has more than she needs is more likely to survive and have more babies. You need an energy surplus to create life, not energy stagnation. And men who are willing to take risks and are able to and survive are more likely to succeed. Thus, men and women equally have their problems. There are guys who get us into wars or make crazy gambits. There are women who get us into wars for different reasons. But I want you to look at this greater male variability hypothesis and now understand how it manifests in politics. Politics and political spaces are not won by the stupid. They're won by the driven and the smart. And as you can see with the green line on the screen, there are substantially more driven and intelligent men than there are driven and intelligent women. However, unfortunately, for women, there's a lot of really dumb guys. So a society that says men by default are going to hold positions in the household or otherwise creates a problem. Women are going to encounter a ton of really dumb guys, and it's going to cause them problems, and that sucks. However, when it comes to electoral politics, you're going to have really dumb guys voting for women because they want to get laid, like the man I already showed you. This man is as dumb as a box of rocks and lacks the testosterone to count. He should have told that young woman when she was like, it's not illegal. He should have said, listen, I have no problem with talking about protecting legal immigrants and people who have done their due diligence. But the criminals, the people who've broken the laws of this country, I'm not playing games. I am not lacking passion or empathy. I'm saying there has to be rules, otherwise criminals rape and abuse and beat women and steal from them and burn down our social order. Maybe she would have been attracted to him a little bit more, but what is this stupid game he's hoping to get rewarded with, if you know what I mean? Cringe. Anyway, the sad reality of politics is going to be this. For the average woman, imagine what it must be like. You're walking down the street and you meet a guy and he seems fairly normal and respectable and he might be smarter than you, but you don't know. Then you meet a guy who's real dumb and you're like, oh my God, why is this guy a manager? This is ridiculous. See, unfortunately, politics, positions of power are held by very few. So averages don't matter. What does that mean? We want a system where everybody above 10 are in charge. See, the scale goes -5, 0, 5, 10, 15. And unfortunately for women, very few of them surpass 10. I don't necessarily know what they're trying to say with the number other than just to represent greater male variability. A lot more men, and thus chess. Why is it that there has never been a female chess champion? Because if you have only one champion every year, and you have billions of people on the planet, and maybe tens of millions playing chess, there's going to be, let's just say, 800,000 top-tier men and 8,000 top-tier women. When you look at the scale, the likelihood that a woman is going to win, slim. And so I take a look at things like Fortune 500 companies and positions of power. Politics is social, subjective. And thus, you'll get Zoran Mamdani saying, vote for me and I'll give you free stuff. And the women are like, I want free stuff. It's what women have always wanted. Men don't vote that way because men want to earn and make the stuff. And they want to feel like they're creating and providing. And here we are. A system that is bound to collapse. And, you know, what's funny is totalitarianism is the end result. It's an ebb and flow, right? You take a look at the Bolshevik Revolution. They say that with the French Revolution and the Bolsheviks, it's when women were deeply involved in politics, you got a rise in this kind of social order breakdown. Well, the Soviet Union sucked, everybody suffered and starved, and the system failed because totalitarianism in hard times is what happens when you have weak governance. Now, fascism, as we saw it, wasn't, I wouldn't describe it as a good system. Strong leadership with a pragmatic mind can be done properly. People can have their vices and their virtues and their freedoms. There will be some fault. There has to be a little give in the system. But when the system goes sour, like with the communist revolution, you'll get a backlash. And what we're seeing now is, for a long time, men were tolerant. And they said, listen, do your thing. Okay? Why? Because we're in control. But over a long enough period of time, more and more men became like this and pandered to women. Instead of leading men and women, they said, I'll say whatever you want to get what I need. We call this the sneaky fucker. It's an actual academic term for men who manipulate to have children as opposed to men who lead to have children. Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. The end result, I think, is fairly obvious. You're going to get women who post pictures of themselves smiling. She doesn't care about politics. She doesn't even know the function of politics. Not all women are that way, but many of them are. What do you think is going to happen? The system will collapse because these women care more about social order than merit. Go back in time. Think about it. The gender roles of females, a cohesive and functioning tribe, needing to work together. So what do? They march in lockstep with each other. If you deviate, they will attack you. Men have to fight a bear off. So with greater male variability, disagreeableness actually worked out really well. 10 guys go out, they all disagree, only one of them was right. He comes home and he has all the babies. That's how it worked. And this is where we are. Greater male variability, disagreeableness, whatever it may be. When a system becomes comfortable and safe, weak men survive when normally they would not. Again, I'm not saying it's good that people die, but it's just a thing that will happen. And now we're going to have very hard times. It's going to cause conflict. And everybody who says that it won't happen or it can't happen, it's an inevitability. Be it not now. There is no system by which we avert the order or the natural cycles of humanity. Weak men will make hard times. That's just it. You can cry about it. You can dread it, run from it. Destiny comes all the same. I'll leave it there. Smash the like button, share the show, subscribe to this channel. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Or watch my other channels. I know most of you already do, so we'll see you there.
Imagine paying $250 just to watch shows per month. Netflix, Disney Plus, HBO, Paramount, Hulu, and Amazon Video. Then add the stuff that's not even on those platforms.
I'm sorry, Mr. Whitaker, I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
I said, God help me.
And if you're like most people, and I know I am, you're probably paying so much per month that when you look at your credit card statement, you probably don't even understand why you're paying for half of the stuff that you're paying for.
$430,000 in 1 month, Jordy? Huh? $430,000 fucking dollars in 1 fucking month.
Meanwhile, while you choose to be a good, law-abiding human being,
Where'd you get the car?
And the suit.
I stole them both. A car from your wife, suit from your grandmother.
somewhere in the shadows, there's piracy. Quiet, messy, and controversial. Doing something no one expected. I don't know if you remember this, but back in the day, we thought pirating movies and shows was over. But guess what? It didn't just survive, it adapted. And now it's coming back and it's getting bigger and bigger than anyone would have ever thought.
Movie rights holders are now beginning to target people who illegally stream content online. This is being done with lawsuits that could cost thousands. And a Supreme Court of Canada ruling expected out today could potentially open the floodgates to even more court cases. Could also lead to a spike in your home internet bill.
In order for us to understand what's really happening, we need to take a look at something. One of the major reasons piracy started making a comeback is the fact that so many people are starting to feel broke. And it's not just some people, it's society itself, from almost everywhere around the world. When you take a step back, you realize that everything is expensive. Food, water, and living itself, and even breathing. So many people will tell you that it's not that bad, but guess what? It is.
I think that internet swapping and trading of different things is pretty cool, man. Kids want to listen to music, you know? I don't think bands should be so concerned with making every penny that should be squeezed out of everything. It's like, I want kids in Thailand to rock out when we show up in Thailand, you know? I don't care if they bought the record or not. If they download it off their computer, right on. If they taped it off their friend, right on. It means they like music. I think people are too concerned, like, it's going to kill the record industry because we're not going to be able to make every penny.
So here's the deal. We thought streaming was meant to be a hero. Back in the day, we were happy that everything was so isolated in certain apps. We knew that we could go on one channel and watch the show that we wanted to watch. And that was the only place that we could go. And it felt wrong going anywhere else and watching that show because it felt criminal. And we thought streaming was gonna kill piracy completely off. And it was gonna give people affordable, legal, high quality access to their favorite content. And for a while it worked. People stopped stealing and downloading. They stopped going to shady sites and stopped digging through Reddit threads to find bootleg links to movies and shows. Because for $7.99, Netflix gave you everything. Life was good and it felt easy. But then as time went on, the big studios got greedy. They looked at Netflix printing money and thought, we want what they have, subscriptions, guaranteed money. So they all launched their own platforms. First it was Hulu, then it was Disney Plus, then it was HBO Max, then it was Peacock, then it was Paramount Plus, then it was Apple, then it was Discovery Plus, and then it was ESPN Plus, and then it was YouTube Premium and Amazon Video. Well, now it's just chaos. The pie that everyone wanted is now gone. We ended up getting crumbs that got scattered across dozens of different apps, and it became more expensive. Now the average person has to juggle 6 to 7 different streaming subscriptions just to keep up with the shows they already love. You want to watch The Office? It's on Peacock now.
No, God! No, God, please, no!
You want to watch the Game of Thrones? HBO Max. Stranger Things? That's still on Netflix.
Henderson. Henderson. He's back! He's back! I'm back! You got the job! You got the job! Yay! Oh!
How many children are you friends with?
But wait, The Crown is only on Netflix, but outside the US in some regions because they removed it. Want anime? You'll need Crunchyroll, you need High Dive. Want K-dramas? Then you need Viki. Want sports? Well, good luck. To give you some perspective, I know you think this is overwhelming. The average person in the US spends close to around $508 a year, and that's just $48 a month just on streaming subscription. That number right there, yeah, it puts it into perspective, doesn't it? The system that was supposed to replace cable just became cable again, except this time it's even less convenient, it's more expensive, more restrictive, and more annoying. And so many people started looking for another option again. And waiting in the shadows was piracy. But this isn't piracy, you remember, not LimeWire or sketchy zip files anymore. This is a generation of piracy that is slick, it's modern, it's called streaming. Platforms like F Movies, Soap Today, 123movies.la, and WatchSeriesHD.tv have risen and grown to take over the underground. And now it's not even the underground anymore, it's actually above the ground because of so many people being attracted to it. And this time, they're not hiding behind blinking ads and pop-ups anymore. These websites are fast, well-designed, and in many cases, more user-friendly than the legitimate platforms we pay for. Some of them mimic Netflix down to the layout, but without the ads, the login, or buffering. They've got the full catalog, global content, HD streams, subtitle support, even continued watching queues. In countries where certain shows or movies are delayed or geo-blocked, these sites become the only place where people can even access the content in real time. Apps like Pikachu, massively popular in India and Southeast Asia, are literally mini pirate Netflix apps that stream US shows, movies, and sports, and anime all in one place for free. And we're not talking about 200 people using this stuff, we're talking about millions, billions of site views and visits per year across the globe.
That there's misconceptions in the industry about what piracy is, right? You know, there's assumption that what is piracy? Piracy is about people want to steal stuff from you, right? That they don't want to pay any money and they want to get your content. But when you look at the fact that these people have, you know, $2,000 PCs and, you know, they're spending $50 a month US more on their internet connections, clearly they're willing to spend money.
In fact, recent data from the analytics firm Muso found that there were over 215 billion visits to piracy websites globally in a single year, with over 80% of that traffic focused on streaming. But here's what really stands out. Most of the people pirating, they already pay for streaming services. They're not avoiding paying. They just feel like they're not getting enough value for what they're paying for.
I realize that there's a cheat code you could do on Netflix, apparently, where you can Control-Shift-Alt-D. And when you hit Control-Shift-Alt-D, what you see is that you are actually getting a low bitrate 720p stream, even though you pay for 4K. Are they actually ruining the experience for somebody who's using a computer because they want you to use closed source platforms that give you more control?
Some of these people can't even find the content they wanted due to licensing issues. Others just don't want to pay $18 a month just to watch one show. And some and others are just frustrated that the content they love got deleted because some studio found a tax loophole. Like when HBO Max removed Westworld, a show they made, just to write it off and save money. Imagine subscribing to a platform only for them to delete your favorite show and then act like it never existed. And that's happening more and more every single month and every single year. Disney removed dozens of original series from its platform. Netflix has quietly wiped out an entire seasons from its library, and guess what? Piracy scoops them up and hosts them forever. And suddenly the pirates look like the preservationists, while the billion-dollar studios look like the ones that are erasing art. That's the world we're in now. People aren't pirating because they love breaking the rules. They're doing it because the system we were promised failed. And they're doing it because convenience disappeared, prices exploded, and content got locked away behind paywalls, geo-blocks, and corporate contracts. So the question now isn't why people are pirating, it's why would they stop now?
Picture your life in a place where everything you do, what you buy, how you behave, is tracked.
They have an unprecedented level of control when it comes to the choices, communications, and private transactions that citizens are making.
See, look, the truth is someone's always paying the price, and when piracy wins, and it is winning, it's not the executives at Disney or the shareholders at Netflix who feel the sting. It's the creators, it's the writers, and it's the production assistants who grinded 16 hours a day on the indie projects just to get them off the ground. And then you have the camera crew who got paid once, hoping the back-end royalties would trickle in someday. When content gets pirated, those royalties vanish. They disappear. And then on top of that, the visibility tanks, budgets dry up, and studios, they start playing it safe because they can't risk it. They start taking less creative risks, slashing character diversity, cutting jobs, and then pumping out reboots that nobody asked for. Because look, I mean, it's a ripple effect. You lose originality, you lose variety, you get endless sequels, spin-offs, and recycled IP that no one asked for. Because it's cheaper to bet on something that's already worked than to gamble on something that's new. That's why everything in theaters feels like it's a part 7 of something of some sort that happened 30 years ago. And a perfect example of this is the Fast and Furious franchise.
Can he drive?
Can he drive? You know what DK stands for? Donkey Kong. Drift King.
Drift. What do you mean, drift?
Still need a dictionary?
Like seriously, these guys went from street racing to fighting nuclear bombs. Like, where does it end? But don't get me wrong, the studios do fight back. They sue piracy websites like almost every other month. But the thing is, they take down mirrors because that's exactly what these piracy sites are. Sometimes they might block the domains, they might blacklist or put stricter copyright laws, but the thing is, you shut down one and 3 others pop up in a different country with completely different laws and different names. A perfect example was a website which was called Soap Today, which got taken down for like a week, and then right as soon as it was taken down, 16 other websites popped up with the same exact UI. But here's the kicker. The more aggressive the crackdown gets, the more people start sympathizing with the pirates themselves. Because, look, the pirates right now are considered the Robin Hoods. People don't want to be treated like criminals for trying to watch a show that used to be free with a subscription last month that they paid for. And they don't want to pay for more and get less and be told it's their fault for sharing their account with their cousins. See, look, I mean, it's creating a divide, not just between the users and the platforms, but between the artists and the audiences. The people who actually care about the good content are caught right in the middle. They want to support the industry, but the industry keeps on making it hard to do the right thing.
Week, there's another thing I have to make a password for, another thing I have to sign up for, and it drains my bank account, and I'm just so sick of it.
But look, there's something deeper that's happening here, something that goes beyond prices and platforms or which show is available where. People are starting to emotionally check out of this entire streaming ecosystem. We're tired. I mean, you're tired. I'm tired. Tired of paying more for less. Tired of opening Netflix and seeing nothing new worth watching. Tired of being treated like we're the problem for sharing passwords, when the real problem is the studios milking us dry while cutting corners at every opportunity they see. There's a sense of fatigue, not just financial, but spiritual. Like, why are we even doing this anymore? Why are we paying? At first, streaming felt exciting. I mean, every Friday there was something new that we were waiting to watch, something original, something worth talking about. But now it feels corporate, algorithmic, empty, shows getting canceled before they even finish the first season, promising stories getting buried under a mountain of mistakes and remakes and spin-offs. And slowly but surely, people stop forming real emotional connections with the platform and with the content itself. We used to have people defending Netflix like it was family. Remember when Stranger Things dropped the new season? It felt like a cultural event. If everyone wanted to watch it, and everyone did watch it. But now, the hype comes and goes within 72 hours and it disappears into the algorithm void. Meanwhile, on the piracy side, there's a weird resurgence of community. People in telegrams, groups, sharing links, helping others find foreign subtitles, uploading lost media, even archiving content that studios themselves have deleted for tax reasons. I'm not saying it's noble, but it's oddly human. And once people disconnect emotionally from a platform, it's incredibly hard to win them back. You can't just throw a new Marvel spin-off at them and expect loyalty. Streaming services haven't just lost subscribers, they've lost the trust. That's dangerous because once the audience stops caring, they stop paying attention. And once they stop paying attention, they stop paying. And that's it. And that's when piracy wins by default. Not because it's better in every way, but because the competition stopped trying to be worth it.
Nearly 1 million people cancelled their subscriptions with Netflix in the past 3 months, but the streaming giants expected to lose twice the number after years of growth. So the company is being hit by a busier marketplace and rising costs.
Illegal streaming of premium video content, particularly live sports, is surging worldwide, raising serious concerns for the broadcasting industry. Broadcasters are warning of an industrial-scale piracy crisis. Now, according to reports, criminal networks are illegally streaming live sports, films, and paid TV channels. High-profile football matches are the most targeted. Reports suggest illegal streaming of football matches are threatening the financial stability of the global sports broadcasting industry.
But don't get me wrong, I mean, there's still a way that they can fix this entire mess, a way to turn things around before the audience completely walks away, which is what we're seeing right now. But it's not going to come from another subscription tier or another corporate rebrand or another spin-off of a 1990s IP that no one asked for. The only way streaming survives is if it goes back to its original promise, making entertainment accessible and affordable and worth it. That means stopping the endless price hikes and nickel and diming. It means bringing everything back together, bundling content, simplifying the platform, and giving people control over what they pay for. It means treating the audience like human beings, again, not just wallets with eyeballs. And it also means that studios need to stop fighting piracy like it's a war, and they need to start recognizing it for what it really is, which is market feedback. Piracy isn't just about stealing, it's about gaps. Gaps in access, gaps in affordability, gaps in trust. Fix the gaps and people will come back. Because people don't want to be pirates, not really. They want what's fair, they want good content.
And the men behind one of the world's top websites for illegal file sharing are sentenced to 1 year in prison. The runners of the Pirate Bay are found guilty of promoting copyright infringement.
As long as they're going to steal it, we want them to steal ours. I sort of get addicted, and then we somehow figure out how to collect sometime in the next decade.
But if the system keeps pushing out with higher prices, more restrictions, and less respect, then piracy won't have to win the war. It'll just quietly take over because no one showed up to stop it by fixing the underlying issue. So if you're watching this and you're nodding your head, maybe you're feeling what millions of other people are feeling because you're not alone. That frustration, that sense of that something is off, it is off. You're not crazy. Streaming got greedy and now it's gonna pay the price.
Places where I was being pirated, particularly Russia, where people were translating my stuff into Russian and spreading it out into the world. I was selling more and more books. People were discovering me through being pirated. And then they were going out and buying the real books. And when a new book would come out in Russia, it would sell more and more copies. And I thought that was fascinating.
Paid you money because I wanted 4K, because you advertise
real books and
your website. So then when I go to your website to view the video, you give me 720p. If I had pirated your material, I would have paid nothing for it and I would have gotten 1080p. I am treated better pirating Netflix content than I actually would be treated paying for Netflix content.
And if you ask me, I do think that piracy will continue to grow and it will grow much faster than we had ever thought possible.
Piracy. Look, super mega rock and roll gods and superstars are just regular dudes like you guys. We punch the clock, We put on the pants, and then we blow people's minds. That's how we make a living. And then these pirates come, and they steal all our internets. I don't know how they do it, but these pirates can bust into our entertainers' homes, make us walk the plank, steal our rockin' tunes, and leave us broke. Is that what you want, Mr. Long John Silver? What's your parrot gonna listen to when you go toe-to-toe against the English Armada? Jazz? I don't think so.
So that being said, thank you for watching. Make sure you subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time.